Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we are doing a quick little live today talking about the importance of building resilience, the key to thriving in challenging times. And I have my partner here with me, the imperfect gentleman. How are you doing today, man?
Peace, King. I'm wonderful. I am definitely in the space that you always talking about, blessing and progressing, King. It's good to be here, man.
Hey, blessing and progressing every day above ground is a good one. And as long as we got breath in our body, then a brighter future is possible. So
That's a fact. That's all
that's
a fact.
amazing. So really, we just kind of just want to just talk about like, and that's little JoJo making his cameo.
You better believe it. You better believe it.
But we just wanted to do a quick little live today talking about uh, the importance of building resilience. And pardon me, we're both, just fathers. So sometimes when we're doing these streams, we're on daddy duty as well. Last time we did one, I was on daddy duty. So just kind of bear with us if you hear one of our children just kind of make some noise in the background. But we just wanted to talk about the importance of kind of just like building resilience. So, what is resilience? Resilience is the mental and emotional and psychological ability to recover quickly from challenges. It's not about avoiding challenges, but effectively being able to navigate them. So a lot of times we feel like that in order to be resilient, that you are just completely never feeling pain, that you're just numb to anything, or that you're just invincible or just indestructible. In actuality, that's not the case. It's not to say that people who are resilient don't experience pain, or that they don't have things that they struggle with, or that they don't experience uncertainty or doubt or situations that they got to work through. That's not the case at all. It's just the ability to be able to acknowledge where you are and being able to successfully navigate through it. That's all resilience is. I was listening to Inky Johnson speak the other day, and he said instead of trying to, people try to understand their pain, and instead of trying to understand it, what you should try to do is just survive it. And then from surviving it, the quicker you can survive it, the quicker you can actually use it. And that's what resilience is. It's surviving it and then using it to great use. So just
Facts.
resilience is the ability to be able to bounce back. It's not saying that we're avoiding. It's not saying that, we're just acting like things don't happen. It involves just being flexible, being adaptable, and having the ability to persevere. Did you have anything that you wanted to
Yo, it's
impart
dope.
on that?
Nah, it's really dope, bro. Like great minds do think alike. Cause like the first note that I actually did put down about the topic was the actual definition. And it's funny because you can't have resilience without trauma. You can't have resilience without circumstances, right? It doesn't. It's pointless because the definition says the capacity to withstand or recover quickly, right, from difficulties or toughness. Like in order to have resilience, you need something in your life to make to have to fight for. You know what I'm saying? So you can't have resilience if you don't have situations to go through in your life. So resilience is a must, but because it's a two sided everything, right? So toughness, you gain resilience through hardships, you gain resilience. So that's my intake on it, bro.
No, I agree. And like I was listening to DMX when he was talking one time, and he said that a miracle can only happen on a platform of a tragedy.
Right,
And so that's kind of like resilience. Resilience can only happen on a platform of, us having to bounce back from something, of us being
right.
defeated. Like in the Bible, it says, though a righteous man falls 7 times, he rises again. And that's
That's a
what
fact.
resilience is. So it's in order for us to be able to rise again, it presupposes that there is a fall. So I definitely agree with you completely.
Indeed,
Um,
bro.
so another thing is kind of talking about how this kind of shows up in the workplace when it comes
Mm,
to resilience. So a lot of times we can experience like setbacks in the workplace, or we experience a negative situation, and let's just say you're going for a promotion and it doesn't work out well. Mm, that situation requires resilience in order for you to be able to, as Aaliyah would say, if at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try
all right,
again.
again.
And
Yeah.
then you just go and figure out, okay, what adjustments do I need to actually make? Who was the person that actually got the promotion over me this particular time? Can I form a relationship with this person? Do I already have a relationship with this person? If I do have a relationship, or if I do form a relationship, how often can I meet from this person? How can I learn from this person as much as possible? So therefore, I am better equipped to be able to be in a better position to get the promotion the next time I'm in the opportunity to actually fight for it.
Right, bro. I'm going to life experience on this one because right before I jumped into entrepreneurship, I had a 9 to 5, and it was a dope job. Shout out to everybody at Banyan. It's a dope place. It's just the resilience that it takes to have to bounce back when your expectations are let down in that space of a raise, right? Yo, when you find out that you're not getting that raise that you worked hard to get, it almost takes the utmost resilience just to go back to your job in that moment. Right? When you go to the office and you have your evaluation, you find out like you're not getting what you thought you wanted to get. Yo, it's really hard not to just walk out that door. You understand? Like your responsibilities is what really keeps you from walking out that door, and that takes resilience, right? It takes being able to grit your teeth, keep and take all the pain that comes with that, go back to your desk and keep working as if though that just didn't happen to you. So I know firsthand, like it takes some real resilience. And a lot of times, Chris, I don't even know if it's the resilience, but for me in that case, it was more so the fact that I had to pay these bills. You know what I'm saying? And I was scared that if I did not go to work, I wouldn't be able to pay those bills at that space in my life. So it does take a
But
whole
like
lot
it
of
says in
resilience.
Proverbs, is that the appetite will actually drive us on.
Right,
So a
right,
lot of times our appetite can lead us to be resilient. Our people being ambitious can lead us to be resilient. Or like Steve Jobs would say, you got to love what you do,
right.
because in order for you to truly be great at something, you need resilience. Because otherwise, you'll
Truth.
just give up when times get hard. But if you love it, you'll be resilient to kind of get through it during them challenging times. Even in the coaching space that we've talked about, there are
Right.
seasons in which clients slow up. There are seasons in which things ain't clicking like it normally does. And if our hearts wasn't really in this, we would have gave up a long time ago. I've
Talk
been
about
doing this type of stuff since I was like, 20 something years old, my young 20s, starting out from just charging $20 a month to, now this is something that I do full time. And it takes resilience.
yes,
It
sir.
takes it
Yes,
takes a lot
sir.
of resilience to just stay on it year after year after year after year. Inky Johnson, another person you probably hear me quote very frequently, but he talked about how
Shout out to the
it's
guy Inky, man.
important for you to be able to fully commit to the process, but detach yourself from the outcome.
Yes,
Fully
sir.
commit to the process, but detach yourself from the outcome, and that is really how that is the definition of resilience,
Chasing
because
greatness.
you're
Yes, sir.
you're just chasing greatness and you're doing everything that you need to do. But if that promotion didn't come, you know what, you still gonna show up and be that same quality of person. You still gonna show up and give that effort. You still gonna learn. You still gonna dust. You still gonna grow. You still gonna improve. You still gonna refine yourself, because it's not about the outcome. It's not about the destination. It's about the process of
Right.
just
Who you're
constantly
becoming.
refining yourself.
Right.
Yes. And so I think constantly having that mindset, I think that's one of the best ways to develop resilience, because a lot of people, let's just say some of my clients are in sales, and
Ooh, getting that
when their
no.
endeavor to sell, and let's just say, you're in a season where, your sales are drying up. And like to your point earlier, as far as the finances and the family situation going on, how that can create pressure for you. Well, if you don't have the ability to be able to have resilience in those particular moments, then you'll keep thinking about how all of these sales calls are not working out for you, how all these people are prospects are booking appointments with you, and then therefore, but when it comes time to actually do the appointment, they're not showing up. Or how all these people are saying that they're actually going to commit, but then when it comes time to actually cash a check, they're not doing it. Those things will actually dominate your mind if you're not careful when it comes to the resilience. So you got to make sure that you want to do what Steph Curry does. Steph Curry says the reason why I'm able to be such a great shooter is because I'm able to forget amazingly. So
Right.
I forget my misses, as opposed to a lot of people will sit there and keep dwelling on their misses, keep dwelling on that sales call that didn't go right, keep dwelling on the simple fact that you didn't get that promotion, as opposed to just forgetting the misses and only focusing on the successes.
Bro. And like I think that that's like the one of the best analogies, like getting fast, right? Because things don't come at us quick all the time. Like we talk about it every day. Like life comes at us quick, and being able to just next play it. My coach used to call it, right, next play. And I never understood why he kept saying that, but you don't ever want to dwell on what happened to you, because it's already happened in the past at that moment, right? You dwelling on it's not going to help you, but you tapping into that resilience is what's going to keep you going forward. And I also want to give to people right now who are working in 9 to 5s and are in that space of needing resilience right now because they're let down right now. They didn't get that promotion that they wanted, or they didn't get what they expected. Make sure that you're working unto yourself and unto God. You don't want to work unto nobody else, because it's easier to get sidetracked from your goal when you think that you're working to please or appease someone else. And your resilience comes when you realize that you're not working for someone else. You're working for your greater self and for God above. So that helped me in my working stage, is that I had to realize that I'm not doing this for the boss. Yeah, I might be working for someone else's name, bringing them income and doing all those things, and they're paying me a percentage. But the truth of the matter is, I'm still building myself. It's not about what I'm doing. It's about who I'm becoming. So just have that in your mind and your thought process, that when you are let down and you do need to pull upon that resilience, just remember, you're not working for no one else. You're doing it for yourself and God alone.
No, facts. And speaking of that, another misconception about resilience is certain people think that certain people are born with resilience and other people
Mm,
aren't. And it's not something that you're just born with. It
no,
is
sir.
something that you cultivate. It is
It's a
something that
muscle.
you build. I was listening to Inky Johnson again, and he said he
Shout
doesn't
out.
care how tall your daddy is. Every man got to do their own growing.
That's a fact.
And that's how resilience is. It doesn't
That's a
matter
fact.
how much resilience your daddy had. Every man got to cultivate their own level of resilience. So it's not
Facts.
just something you're born with. You see other people have it. It's just because they utilize it more. You see other people that are courageous. It is because they just utilize the strength of courage more. You know anything about exercise? If you break an arm and your arm goes into a cast for a couple of months, when it comes out, its atrophy takes in place. So your muscles have actually gotten smaller. And the reason why it's gotten smaller is because you haven't used that muscle. So the same thing when it comes to the intangible muscles in our body, the muscle of resilience, the muscle of courage, the muscle of confidence. If we haven't used these muscles, they're going to atrophy and they're going to get small. And then
Facts.
when we endeavor to use
Facts.
it, we're going to feel weak. Just like the first time that cast comes off the arm and you go to the gym and you try to go back to the and lifting the weights, you're not going to be able to lift what you did before the injury because
No,
atrophy
sir.
took into place. You got
Right.
weaker. So what you got to do is recognize where you're actually at, and then just slowly build the muscle from there. And resilience is no different. Recognize, okay, like when I'm helping with my clients work through their imagination, and I'm having them imagine an empowering vision for themselves, or having them see themselves in the light that they actually want to manifest. They're having a hard time doing it because for the most part, a lot of us haven't exercised the ability to really use our imagination to be able to create an
Right.
image like that we want. It's hard for us to be able to see certain things, and but it's just because it's a muscle. We haven't used it.
Right.
But once you
Seriously.
start utilizing it every day, you get stronger and stronger with it to the point where a person can say, yo, create this image in your mind, and immediately you can do it. But if you haven't used your imagination like that before, you will have a difficulty using it. So know that people aren't just born with it, that it is
Right.
something that everybody has to cultivate. And the last misconception that I want to bring up before we go on to the next topic is um, stoic endurance. That's what a lot of people think resilience is just enduring things without expression, enduring things without feeling pain, that you can't feel like you're struggling, that you can't feel like you're challenged, that you can't feel like it's difficult right now. And that's not the case at all. Stoic endurance is a misconception when it comes to resilience, because resilience is about just navigating your challenges successfully. It's not just acting like you're numb and that you're not experiencing pain, or that you are not experiencing uncertainty, or that you're not experiencing doubt, or that you're not experiencing depression or anxiety or whatever the emotion is. Resilience is just being able to navigate that successfully.
Facts.
So don't think that you got to just grit your teeth and just act like you're invincible and that you act like you're not experiencing anything emotionally, because that is not resilience. That's actually a recipe for disaster.
And honestly,
Did you
bro,
want to touch
that's
on any of those?
yeah, no. And I was gonna say that that's actually the chemical design for internal conflict. Right? Think about that. When you're going through something, you're going through it. You can't deny that. You trying to suppress that and deny that is an actual lie to yourself. Right now, your exterior is going through something, and you internally feel that, and you know it for a fact. But you're telling yourself, "Oh, now I'm good. I'm not going through this. Oh, I'm just fine." Meanwhile, you're emotionally distressed. You have high tension, right? You're completely aggravated, and you're talking about you're fine. You're lying. And this is where that internal conflict begins, because you can't tell yourself the truth about even the circumstance that you're going through. So in order to defeat that and knock that internal conflict out, you got to be real with yourself. If you're going through something, yo, listen, I'm not all right. I say this all the time, Chris. You not being okay is fine, But you trying to pretend like you are, that's where the problem lies. Like, you not being okay is a natural thing. At some point, all of us are not going to be okay. But that resilience factor kicks in, and then we pull ourselves back. Sometimes it takes me reaching out to my brother Chris. Yo, Chris, I'm not okay today. Sometimes it takes that, because, like Chris always says, you can't see you can't see the whole picture if you're sitting inside the frame. It takes someone else that's outside of the picture that can see and point some things out to you to help you see a different perspective. But the truth is, you can't lie to yourself talking about, oh, I'm fine. And this whole stoic stuff is nonsense. Be real with yourself, and don't allow that internal conflict to fester and be more than what it should be in your life.
No, facts. That was perfectly put. So now we can kind of go into like identifying like personal challenges in regards to using resilience. The first one we can kind of go into the professional settings, professional setbacks. So some modern business challenges that we're facing, the rise of AI. So
Yeesh.
some people may have to actually be resilient in the marketplace because the AI is about to just be taking people's jobs.
Yeah.
It's eliminating a lot of the work in which certain people was getting paid to do. So how are you going to actually navigate that challenge? Because remember, to be resilient just means navigating the challenge. How are you actually going to handle that? I
Hey,
know my
shout out to
mother.
Donnie. I just want to say a quick shout out to Donnie. Donnie's quote is, "You got to believe in your ability to figure it out." I think that sums up resilience so much. Like that quote, you have to believe in your ability to figure things out. Like, you got to believe that. You got to believe that no matter what comes your way, you have the ability to figure that out. I didn't mean to
Facts.
cut you off, bro.
No, you're good. And when the pandemic happened, it's like we had to be resilient. We had to learn how to go
Facts.
virtual,
Facts.
how to make things happen virtually.
Yeah.
With the rise of AI, we got to figure out, okay, how to use AI. Like I tell people, look, you don't want to like shy away from it. You want to learn how to embrace it. Cause I feel like AI can turn you from Tony Stark's to Iron Man if you
Facts.
use it properly. But are you going to
Facts.
embrace it? Or are you going to just sit up there and say, no, that's not for me. I'm not about to, change with the times and all that stuff and then be replaced. And then later on be mad because we wasn't resilient. We wasn't able to navigate through the times.
Blockbuster.
We got to just, bruh, and even Netflix to a certain degree right now. Like Netflix was able to take over for a little bit, but Netflix is down. That's more so a different one, not LinkedIn. Um, and so those type of setbacks, the rising of the AI, then
Mm,
just adapting to just like the virtual spaces and everything, because
facts.
certain people wasn't used to being on, virtual as far as Zoom and StreamYard and all these different. Most people wasn't used to even just being in a camera and
Right.
having to be on screen and doing that was just new. But we had to be resilient because the world actually shifted. So we got to be able to just make those particular adjustments. And even just I've been in cases where I was working a job, and when I was younger, I haven't had a technical 9 to 5 in many, many years. But I was working at this company, Moby, and it was the most I had ever made at a particular time. I think I might have been making like 35,000 a year at this job. And one day they just let me go. They said my personality was too eccentric. And
Mm,
um, I remember I was just like, devastated from there. And I was just like, oh my God, like, what am I about to do? Like,
right.
oh man, this is the
Right.
most money I ever. And it's just about being resilient. It's about just where are you going to let your mind dwell? Are you going to just let your mind focus on what's going wrong, what's not right, how this is messed up? Or are you going to focus on what's actually going right, what opportunities that you have, where you're trying to land? Another way to think about it is when you're in the middle of a jump, the only thing you want to be thinking about is where you want your feet to land. You
Right.
don't want to be thinking about nothing else. And that's what resilience is. It's in the midst of things that's going on. Are you walking by fear? Or are you walking by faith?
Right.
When Jesus told Peter to get out of the water and walk, Peter was like, oh, I don't know about all that. But when he kept his eyes focused on God, he was able to walk on the water. The moment he took his eyes off of God and looked down at the water, he began to sink. And that's
Facts.
kind of like what resilience is. Resilience is us keeping our eyes on God. And before you know it, we are walking on water. But
Right.
we start to doubt when we look down at our feet and start to realize, like, yo, I'm walking on water. And that's when we actually start to sink. So we just want to keep our mind on the things that we want and off of the things that we don't.
Bro, and
Um,
I had a story about resilience myself. So when my son was conceived in my wife's womb, my daughter was already born. I went to work, and like Chris said, I had a job at this point that where I was making the most money I've ever made in my life. and we was comfortable. We felt amazing. We had a brand new daughter, and my son was on the way. Bro, on Thursday night, I went to work, and simply they told me they no longer needed my services. It was no lead up. It was no explanation. It was simply we no longer need this service. I got to work on time and walked in the door, and they escorted me right to the front office. And it took me no longer than 15 minutes or 20 minutes to get home and go and coming from work. That was the longest 15 to 20-minute ride in my entire life, going home to tell my pregnant wife that I no longer have a job. So like Chris said, all the what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do next? Where am I gonna go? How am I gonna feed my family? All those questions begin to ring out. And the one thing I wanted to say is, yo, it's okay to give yourself some grace and space in that time to go through the negative feelings. Because no, you don't want to stay there, but you do want to address that you're going through those feelings. Yo, that night, I gave myself that night. I went home. I was pissed off. I was asking God why. I was doing all the things that my brain wanted to do. But that resilience kicked in the next morning and said, like, listen, you got to feed these kids. You got to figure something else out. And because of that, we are now where we're sitting today. And to be honest, I'm so grateful that job let me go then, right? Because if not, Chris, I wouldn't be sitting here with you right now. But the fact that I didn't lay down and I kept fighting is the definition of resilience. You just got to keep fighting, y'all. Don't stop fighting.
And you can't lean on your own understanding in those moments.
No,
Because your
definitely
own
can't.
understanding will only keep you on the level that you're on. And a lot of times those situation happens because it's calling you to reach another level.
Right.
But like Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you just got to trust that whatever moves you're making, that the dots will actually connect in the future. So you just got to walk. That's back to walking by faith and not by sight. But remember, like Myron Golden says, doubt comes from things that you see, but faith comes from things that you hear. So you want to make sure that you're constantly watching what you're seeing that will cause you to doubt. And you always want to just keep reinforcing the things that you're listening to that's causing you to have the particular faith that you can do it.
Yes.
You know, so you want to make sure that's in because we listen to our internal dialogue. So we want to make sure that our internal dialogue is actually reflecting what we want to hear. We want to make sure that our internal dialogue is reflecting, generating faith, and not something that's going to cause us to doubt or feel like that the situation is not going to happen for us or work out in our favor.
Right on, bro. Right on. Like, you got to make sure that you're consistently feeding yourself what feeds you that positivity, that faith instead of fear. That's so important, bro.
That ties into the next point of overcoming past failures, because a lot of times how we got to bounce back and use our resilience is when those past failures come. But so many times we just ruminate over all of the past failures. We just keep thinking about how this went wrong, how this went wrong, how this went wrong. And we neglect to think about the things that actually went right. And we need to learn how to, during those moments of perceived failure, get the feedback. We got to choose the perceptual lens that there is no such thing as failure. There's only feedback. And when we look at it as there's no such thing as failure, there's only feedback, it keeps us in a growth mindset. We'll kind of go more in detail as far as a growth mindset a little bit in a second, but as opposed to a fixed mindset, because a fixed mindset is like things aren't changeable. Things are just how they are. Yep. You know, I am how I am. The circumstances is how it is. But a growth mindset is more so like this might be how it is right now, but it won't be how it actually be in the future. And when you look at things as failure, it keeps you more in a fixed mindset because it looks at it as like it's not changeable. Right. Or the situation is just permanent or fixed. But when you look at it as a growth mindset, it's like, no, I can just get the feedback and I can make necessary adjustments. Like a rocket is, of course, roughly 99% of its journey, but it lands where it needs to land roughly 100% of the time because it's constantly course correcting. It recognizes the trajectory that it's on, and then it just makes iterations. And that's how we got to be in our own life. A situation doesn't work out the way we want it to. We don't want to look at it as a failure. We just want to look at it as it's feedback. What can I learn from this particular situation? And what information can I take from this and then make the necessary adjustments to get a different result in the future? And that is one of the main ways how we can use our failures as a stepping stone as opposed to stumbling blocks, because so many times it's the reverse. Our failures or our perceived failures in life tend to be stumbling blocks for us, and they don't hold us up. They actually keep us back or keep slowing us down in life. as opposed to being able to find a positive intention for that thing that happened to us in the past, as far as how can that thing that happened to us in the past can prop us up in the future to have me reaching higher heights. But if I don't have a positive intention as far as what that thing meant to me in the past, I'll never be able to do anything positive with it in the future.
Bro, one thing that helped me understand that life life's journey are the stumbling blocks. You understand? Like, life's journey is the stumbling blocks. There is no smooth sailing road, bro. Like, once I gathered that thought, it's like, oh, this is the journey, right? Like, I'm not off course because the road is bumpy. I'm actually on my design course. Those stumbling blocks have been designed there purposely, not to deter me, but sometimes to slow me up. I've learned, slow me up from getting to places I'm not designed to be just yet. And what happens when those stumbling blocks do come? You get a little tripped up. You hurt yourself a little bit. But what you do is you learn to gather your steps, though, Chris. Right? Whenever you walking through rough terrain, you're not running confidently. You're watching your steps. You're taking your time because you understand one wrong step could be bad for you. But this is why I said to myself, yo, life's roads have to be these stumbling blocks. Like, you've never heard no one's story, Chris. No great person, no great man, no great woman in any of our times who've walked a smooth road, who didn't have to have some sort of high resilience. It's unheard of. No, not one story under the sun to just straight glory. Doesn't happen. But the stumbling blocks make the story. It makes the testimony. And we all know that someone else's testimony is someone else's therapy, right? Because if you can get through something, right? If you made it through something, that means now what? I can take your story, use that for my being, and turn it around for be my therapy. It says, you know what? If he could do it, so can I. And this is why I said to myself, yo, if we can understand the thought process of the stumbling grounds is the journey, our resilience will keep us fighting in that space, because now it's said, yo, I'm not expecting a smooth ground, but I'm willing to fight through this rough terrain. And that's a mindset, man. Like, this is the thought process you have to have, because life is going to throw these haymakers at you. Yo, Chris, how many times in the last 2 months have we been slapped by something totally different out of nowhere?
A lot.
You see what I'm saying? And everyone listening to us right now can relate. Right now, you just woke up this morning and found out something you didn't know last night that cost you a little grief, cost you a little agony. I woke up this morning personally to a build I didn't expect this morning. So, of course, I'm like, dang, right? But the truth of this matter, I'm not going to sit on the edge of my bed with my head down, sulking, oh, my God, what am I going to do? Where did this bill come from? How am I going to get it paid? No, I'm going to get up and I'm going to fight, because the good fight starts up here. This is where the battleground is at. See, we think it's a physical fight, Chris. Nah, it ain't a physical one. The fight you got to do is a mental one against yourself. Tell yourself, no, don't stay here in this. Don't sit here in this low vibrational state. Stand up and go fight, and use what you have up here to defeat what's going on up there, because trust me, that's where the battleground is at. And that's where that rough terrain is that we talked about earlier.
No, facts. And then another way in which resilience actually shows up, or in which we need resilience to show up, is for relationship hurdles. Because without resilience, when you experience a breakup or when you experience traumatic events in relationships, it interferes with your ability to avoid those toxic patterns. So
Correct.
if you don't actually navigate through those challenges and have resilience and perseverance to bounce back from those challenges, then what it does is it causes you to keep recreating those scenarios. It causes you to keep having basically a self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, since you expect that of people because you haven't done the healing work, you'll generalize that to your experience, and you'll just believe that everybody does that. That always happens in relationships, that men are just like that, or women are just like that, or all these warped ideas that will keep causing relationship issues. But it all stems from not having the resilience to be able to navigate the emotionally traumatic experiences that we experience in a relationship. And if we don't have the resilience to deal with that and to bounce back from that and to navigate that, then they will just stay scars. And unfortunately, like they said, if you don't heal, then you will bleed out on everybody that didn't cut you. And
Facts.
those are a lot of relationship issues that can happen. And then also when it comes to communication issues. Unless you choose to actually have resilience and work through your emotional challenges, it will be hard for you to validate somebody else's experience when they're actually listening to you. It'll be hard for you to actually avoid blaming somebody else when actually expressing yourself, or when just in communications about things that's going on. It'll be hard for you to actually actively listen, because you'll just be so in your head, just ready to respond to what a person actually said. So we need the resilience to be able to heal our damaged parts of us, the emotional wounds that we have, because otherwise we'll bleed on everybody who didn't cut us. We'll be listening to a person talk, but filtering it through our own emotional wounds that aren't healed, that this
Yes.
person didn't do. But again, because we're not healed, we're constantly projecting our experience onto everybody else. So we
Right.
could be listening to a person and we're just not validating, or we're not even emotionally connected to them, because we're so disconnected because of our unresolved emotional jump,
Right.
because we haven't had the resilience or the mindset to actually build the resilience to navigate through those particular challenges. What are your thoughts on those?
Bro, I'm living proof of it. Everything you said just now is true, bro. Until I started doing the healing, even in my own personal relationship, my marriage, relationship with my parents, my mom, my stepfather, my brother, my sister, all those relationships was strained, right? Because I was avoiding having the hard conversations, right? I didn't have that muscle built up of resilience, that because what we don't realize also, resilience gives you a thicker skin, right? It gives you the ability to hear those hard conversations, or those things that probably would trigger you, and allow you to sit through them, process them the right way, and not internalize them and normalize them. You see what I'm saying? So me personally, I had to, like Chris said, do the work to build this muscle of resilience, because at first all I was doing was running. And shout out to the homie Tony Robbins. I got a chance to sit with him and talk with him, and I asked him a question. And I said, "Bro, what's different about you? What's different? What's different from me to you?" And I don't want the commercial. I don't want the talk. I want a real answer between two men. And he said simply, "Bro, I do the hard things that you don't do every day, which is have hard conversations with the people I love." And when he said that, it was almost like he looked into my life, and he knew that what my weakness was, is at. Like that's where he almost spoke into me and seen, like, this is where you're weak at. And I'm telling you, from that experience, I came home and began to have hard conversations, and that resilience muscle now built up to where I can have hard conversations with anyone. It doesn't trigger me, right? It doesn't cause me a negative response in my nervous system anymore, because I've taken the time to do the work and also lean in to what I was scared of. Right? Resilience is built, Chris. Confidence is built when you lean into things that you fear. Right? Because truth of the matter is, the things we fear is on the opposite side of that, is where our greatest selves are at. So in order for me to even have the resilience, I had to build up to that, which was the work was having those hard conversations, doing the things that give me anxiety, right? Like do the thing that gives me those heart racing palpitations before you do them, or those conversations that you know you feel about, right? And you lean into those and you realize, mate, it wasn't that bad. And then guess what? That resilience muscle begins to grow. Bro, now you having hard conversations where it was just between you and your friends. Now you can have a hard conversation between you and your manager. Now you can have a hard conversation between you and your boss and not be triggered, right? Stay in the moment, be actually there and understand for what they're saying, and not internalize the wrong way. Yo, Chris, right now, I truly feel that this conversation is helping so many people right now, because this is unspoken. I haven't heard anyone else speak about these things. And now that we're having this conversation, it took me back into those moments where I felt insecure about talking to my manager about a raise, or I felt insecure about having a conversation with my mother about a space in my life where I felt like she neglected me in certain ways. All of these things were built, is what built my resilience now, into my confidence now to be the man that I am. Because if I didn't do those things, Chris, I still be shying away from those things, bro.
That's a good point, because the last thing I wanted to talk about before we got into solutions was how not having resilience actually makes us have imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Because the not feeling like I'm worthy to be here, not feeling like I deserve to be here, not feeling like I'm qualified or I'm good enough to be in this relationship or to have this particular role or be at this economic level. Those particular thoughts stems from not utilizing our resilience muscle.
Right. Right
It's
on,
from
bro.
not working through those, navigating those challenges that make us feel not good enough, that make us feel not less than, that make us feel like we're not lovable or we're not worthy of good things or we're not capable of actually getting, or certain things aren't possible. all those particular thoughts, that internal dialogue that kicks off in our head, that stems from not utilizing our resilience and wanting to
Yes.
push through or navigate these challenges. Remember, learning, just because we learned how to carry something doesn't mean we healed from it. Just because we learn how to carry
Mm,
something and deal with it and live with it doesn't mean that we've actually learned how to navigate through it. Doesn't mean
Yo,
that we've
that's a
actually
bar,
learned how
Chris.
to use it.
That's a bar, bro.
But so many people feel like just because, yeah, I carried it, but that's most of my clients come, oh, we ain't got to deal, we ain't got to talk about that. I learn how to deal with that. And inevitably we end up having to deal with it.
Of course,
But we
of
just don't
course.
have the awareness to tie it to our current day struggles and all the stuff in our past that we just feel like that we don't got to deal with. We don't got to address that. We're past that we've learned how to carry it. It's just because we don't have the awareness to be able to connect those things with why we're feeling so overwhelmed today. Why are we
Right.
feeling like just like I'm carrying too much? Because you don't realize that you're carrying it. You haven't learned how to release it, give it up. You don't
And
know who to
bro,
give it to. Cast your burdens on the other people, not to other people,
exactly.
but to something outside of yourself.
Exactly. Leave it at God's feet and let God be God. Yo, Chris, it's crazy because as you was talking, I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, the whole thought about just getting through a tough time and the muscle of resilience, bro, like that's literally the key to life if you think about it. I was sitting here thinking about, damn, like this is the key. You know what I'm saying, bro? Like there isn't any other thing that's gonna help you get through life because of the inevitable ups and downs that come with it. If you have resilience and like if you think about all the attributes that come we need in life, resilience is probably top key, bro. Because everything comes with an adversity, right? There's two sides to everything. So whatever's a positive, it has to have a negative. So if you're equally ready for that positive, you should be equally ready for that negative. And the only way you can be ready for that negative is by consistently building that resilience. And it's a mental space you go to. This is why I'm a big component of working out. See, if you put your body through a workout and you go the next day, trust me, you don't feel good. Right, Chris? Am I right or wrong? Like you work out today,
Facts.
you don't want to go the next day because it hurts. You're sore. You don't feel good.
If you haven't worked out in a while, facts. If you're out of the
Exactly.
habit of working out, yes.
But the resilience muscles and the muscles begin to strengthen when you go back on that day 2, day 3, day 4, and you keep going because guess what? Now you're stepping out of how you feel and you're going based upon what you know you need to get done. And this is how I help most of my clients start building their resilience because the day that they're talking about, oh, I don't want to go to the gym, this day you gotta go. The day you don't want to go is the day you must go.
They said
Because
God work on principles and the devil works on feelings. So anytime
yes,
we in our feelings and our feeling is causing us to either do something we're not supposed to do or causing us not to want to do something we know we're supposed to do, that's the devil working on us because God is
facts.
principle. So it don't really
Yes.
matter how you feel. A principle don't matter how you feel.
And bro, let me tell you something. Like that's been the determining factor now of me just getting up and getting things done. It's not about pleasure anymore. It's about purpose. Like, and that's right there. I think it ties into resilience because once you know the purpose of what you're doing something for, you don't have no problem fighting and getting it up to go get it done. Like right now, I know that I don't want to always sit here and coach. I don't always want to sit here and help somebody with their issues. But I know number one, it helps me get through my own mental issues, helps the person I'm dealing with, and it also feeds my family. So it's not about how I feel in that moment. It's about the fact that it got to get done, and that's principle based. So shout out to my guy, man, what's this guy's name? I get his name in a second, but he always says men operate men operate on principles, not pleasure. Go after seek purpose and not pleasure. So and that helps me with my resilience muscle because once I step out of that mindset of looking for pleasure and looking for purpose, now I'm based on in resilience. Everything I'm doing, I'm fighting now. I'm in a fight mode because I know that there's gonna be things that are gonna come back and push against me mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So if you're not practicing resilience in all four spaces of your life, you're gonna have an issue. And that's important as well, Chris. We gotta have resilience, not just in our everyday at work, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. We gotta have this fight back because every day something is designed to take something from us.
No facts. And so now we can kind of switch to like solutions. So
Yes, I
couple
like this.
solutions I got is adopting a growth mindset, cultivating self-awareness and emotional intelligence, and building a support team. So with the growth mindset, a growth mindset is nothing more than just viewing challenges as opportunities as opposed to
Yes.
viewing them as like setbacks. So
Right.
we just want to embrace failure. You know, there's no such thing as failure. There's only feedback. Constantly have that frame of mind. So therefore, we're having continuous learning. And
No
then with the
losses,
continuous
only lessons.
learning, we're always just constantly making adjustments,
Yes.
constantly fine tuning our approaches. And then with that, we're just constantly feedback. And then with that, we'll turn into the rocket going to the moon. Where remember, the rocket is off course 99% of its journey, but it lands where it needs to land roughly 100% of the time because it's constantly just making the adjustments. It's
Right.
constantly learning. It's constantly course correcting. So that's the first thing is cultivate a growth mindset. Don't look at things as failure. Yes, it may not have worked out how you wanted to work out, but you can be resilient and um think of it like gear shifts and all that stuff. You may be in just gear one. You could look at it as a failure because you're not going 55 miles an hour. And if you looked at it as like, oh, I'm a failure, you'll never, if you know how to work a stick shift, you'll never make it to 55 miles an hour with that
Right.
mindset
Right.
because you got to go through the gears. You got to go through 1, 2,
Facts.
3, 4, and 5. And each one has a specific set of things that you got to do to successfully make it from that one to the next one. And that's how you want to look at it. You just got to keep learning. Okay, what's for gear one? What's the world of gear one? Okay, I done mastered this world a little bit. Okay, what's the world of gear two? Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
done mastered this world again. Oh, damn, I done stalled out a little bit. And now I'm back at gear one. Okay, but I know gear one though. So Val, I can get to this one. All right, Val, I know gear two now. Okay, I made it to gear three. Now I'm on gear four. Val, I done stalled again. Damn, now I'm back at gear one. Okay, but I know gear one. I know gear one at the back of my hand now.
Right.
I'm no gear two now too. I'm a little familiar with gear three. And now I know a little bit of gear four. Val, I done made it to gear five. Oh, damn, I didn't start again.
Right.
And that's kind of how you want to keep looking at it in regards to feedback and just making adjustments. Don't look at it as because you stalled that you failed, because if you looked at it like that, you'll never get back into the race. You'll never keep going again. But if you understand the metaphor that I'm using, you know that stalling is all part of the process. Any
Facts.
person who ever learned how to drive a stick successfully has always stalled at least one point in time in their life. Even once they got good at actually driving the stick, they've still stalled at a point in time.
That's a
The
fact.
second component of that is
Wait,
is self.
I just want to
Are
touch
you
that.
good?
Yeah, before you go on, I just want to touch that one right quick because the mindset is so important because you got to realize that every fail doesn't equate to a failure, right? If you fail something, that doesn't equate failure. And if you do realize that you have met failure, you got to realize that that's not fatal, right? Like going through from fail to failure doesn't equal fatal. So if it doesn't equal fatal, that means it's only temporary, and you have an opportunity to bounce back. And here comes the kick in resilience. Remember, you failing something is a lesson inside of that. So it's not a failure. You're still winning. You're still gaining something from that. The growth mindset says no matter what I go through, I'm not going to just go through it. I'm going to grow through it. Because it's not about what you go through. It's about who you become while you're going through that, right? It's about us becoming. See, shout out to Myron Golden again. It's about be, do, have, right? You be the person you need to be to do the things you want to do so you can have the things you want to have. But in order to have the things, you got to do the things. And in order to do the things, you got to be the person. And how do you become the person? By going through the things that make you the person you need to be.
Facts, major facts. And then you got self-awareness and emotional intelligence. So
Yes,
we got to
sir.
be able to recognize and understand our emotions and the emotions of other people. And we got to be able to manage our interactions successfully. That is a key thing when it comes to building resilience, because if
Yes,
we don't
sir.
know how to manage our emotions, if we don't know how to recognize the emotions of other people, it's going to be hard for us to actually maintain success in life. And then the next thing is building a support system. That's going to be one of the main things in regards to us building resilience. They say, Les Brown always says, sometimes you got to believe in other people's belief in you until your belief kicks in. So
Yes.
sometimes it can be hard for us to see a brighter future or to have a compelling vision for the future, but other people around you can see things in you that you're struggling to see in yourself. And so you want to steal their vision that they have of you for a period of time. And you're like, okay, I can see myself doing that. I can see myself doing that. And before you know it, because of that support system, your resilience starts to kick in because you start to see yourself in a higher light. So therefore, you start to engage or interact with the world differently. you start to have different responses. You start to have different new thought patterns. You start to process situations differently. So therefore, you start to get a different result in life. But it all stemmed from you choosing to cultivate resilience and you choosing to actually build a support system, because there are times in which no man is an island. Each of us need all of us, and all of us need each of us. There are times in which some of us are going to falter. This is why
Yes.
Proverbs always tells us that with abundance of counselors, victory is guaranteed.
Yes.
So basically, resilience is guaranteed with an abundance of counselors. When you got people that you respect, that have the results that you want in life, they say the law of 33, which is basically you want to spend 33% of your time with people who are less fortunate than you
Yes.
and helping them out, because it will keep you in proper perspective as far as your situation. Sometimes when we're not spending 33% of our time with people who are less fortunate than us, we can think our situation is just so bad. But then when we're
Yes.
actually spending time with people who are less fortunate than us, it can give us appreciation for our own problems, which can help us
Absolutely.
with resilience. Then you want to spend another 33% of your time with people that's lateral with you. That's people that's on the same level as you. Then you want to spend 33% of your time with like mentors or people who are living the results, the type of life that you actually want. And that's a good, well-rounded way of spending your time. But that is one way to actually build resilience. So when you're spending that 33% of your time with the people that's above you, that's going to build resilience, because that's going to intensify your desire to actually keep going. Spending 33% of your time with people that's less fortunate than you, that will increase your resilience, because that will give you a greater appreciation for what you're actually dealing with. And it'll make you look like, you know what, my problems ain't that big. I was complaining about that, but I'm ashamed. I remember back to Inky Johnson. Inky Johnson was talking about when he had lost, um, when his left arm, shoulder, and hand and fingers and all that got paralyzed, and still paralyzed to this day. And he said that he was in rehab for 2 years, and he was kind of feeling down on himself one day. He said he looked over, and the girl that was next to him was this little kid, and basically like both of her parents had to like keep like her skin from falling off of her face. And he was like, he just was looking at her like, how am I feeling down on myself because my arm ain't working when she can't even keep her skin on her face? It's all about perspective. And he was like, that's why people be like, yo, how are you like that? And you just got such a beautiful spirit. He was like, well, shit, I was in rehab every single day for 2 years. And all I'm seeing is people in way worse situations than me.
Right. Right.
And I'm just like, thank you, Lord. Thank you for my situation. People be like, yo, how can you be thankful in a situation like that? What, you ain't got nothing to compare it to.
Mm.
That's why you're not thankful in your
Come on.
situation. So we gotta just spend time. And again, it's not to go around them and be like, yo, I'm in a better situation than you. It's more so
Right.
just to one, help a person,
The
but to
awareness.
two, yes, to increase your awareness so you know,
Yes.
like, okay, my situation ain't it ain't like that. In my head, I
Right.
was making it like that, but the reality of it is it's not really like that. I don't know if you had any other strategies for cultivating resilience.
Nah, bro. I'm gonna keep it real simple and to the point. Like, do what scares you. That's how you build resilience. Do what scares you. See, a lot of times we don't build a resilience because we shy away from the thing that's supposed to give us that muscle, right? We shy away from it. But I tell all my confidence coach clients that I have, I tell them all, courage comes before confidence. You got to be courageous enough to lean into that thing that scares you. And if you need help doing that, goes back to Chris' point, you got to get into a group. You got to get around a bunch of men who are doing the same thing. Like-minded individuals will not only help you, but it would push you. It would push you to the version of yourself you need to be, because accountability, number one, is the answer to all anxiety, right? Because anxiety is about things in the future. And how do you knock out anxiety? By doing things what you need to be doing right now. So how do you make sure you do things you're doing right now? By being held accountable. And that's what comes inside of finding your network, finding your group. Because without that, most times you feel like you're fighting alone. And let me tell you, from somebody who's tried to fight alone, you're gonna get tired after a while, and you're gonna need someone. Like, no man is an island. Like Chris said earlier, God did not put us on this earth to be alone. We are designed to intertwine and use each other for their strengths to help us move forward. So you cannot get into your headspace where I'm doing this alone. You got to build a network. You got to build a wolf pack. Right now, what you're looking at on the screen right now is two gentlemen who lean on each other when it's time. When I'm going through something, yo, Chris, I'm going through something. I need you right now, bro. I can't get out of this headspace that I'm in. Chris, hit me. You're RJ. I'm not in a good space right now. I'm not feeling this right now. We lean on each other because this is how we grow. Because at no point, at some point, we're all going to need a helping arm. You see what I'm saying? Think about this. There's never been a time in your life where you got to do something that was outside of your strength power that someone didn't help you with. Just yesterday, Chris, on the way home from going to the supermarket, someone's car broke down and he was in the middle of the road. I hopped out of my car and I began to help him push it because while he was pushing it before I got there, he was moving, right? He was making it along slowly, but traffic was coming. When I got out of my car and began to help him push, that car began to move faster and got him out of harm's way faster. What does that mean? Meaning we need someone else a lot of time to help give us that push we need to get us where we're going. So don't feel like you're fighting alone because that's when your resilience will begin to dwindle. And Chris always talks about we only have a certain amount of willpower. You don't want to use all of your willpower and fighting when you got teammates that can help you because that's where your resilience is built when someone else is helping you. Yesterday, when that man was pushing that car, he was tired, but he got more energy when I began to help him push. His feet began to move faster. He was no longer struggling as much as he was because he had help of someone else to help him push that weight. And that's what you need in life to help you keep going forward, kings out there.
No, facts. And when you are struggling to cultivate emotional resilience, you need to just make sure that you are aware that if you allow yourself to drift into a negative emotion, you won't feel empowered to actually change your situation. So
Correct.
the main key to developing emotional resilience is being able to stay in a positive emotional state. So there's this thing called the emotional triad because it has to do with your physiology, your mental focus, and your language patterns. And these are things that the combination of it will generate a lot of our emotions. So anytime you find yourself feeling in a negative emotional state, you monitor these three things and it will help you pull yourself out of a negative emotional state and put yourself into an empowering one. First one is physiology. We have to understand that we don't get emotions, we do emotions. So with every emotion that we actually do, there's a certain physiology that we all do with it. And it's different for every person. For the most part, the facial expressions with emotions are all the same. When a person's angry, it's typically the eyebrows come down, the eyelid comes up a little bit, the jaw tightens, the mouth closes a little bit, the hands might tight, the breathing tends to be a
Teeth
certain type of
clenched.
way, the teeth is clenched, all that's anger, you know.
Right.
So that's the physiology of anger. So anytime you're recognizing like that you're angry, know that that's what your body is actually doing. Only thing you have to do is relax the physiology for no more than 2 to 3 minutes and the emotion actually leaves. We know when we're sad, we're typically the corners of the mouth go down, the upper inner eyelids typically or upper eyebrows tend to go up. And we're like that. The eyelids tend to droop just a little bit. That's sadness in the face, but it got a posture and their body language and all that stuff with it as well. So being mindful of what your body actually does when you feel sad. And then on the flip side, how do you actually pull it into a positive one? Well, what does your body do when you feel confident? What does your body do when you feel sure of yourself? What does your body do when it feels joyous? Once you can recognize what your body is naturally doing, how that emotion manifests itself within your particular body. And this is why working with a coach is beneficial. So you can actually become aware of what your body is doing because it's hard to see the picture when you're standing in the frame sometimes. But once you become aware of what your body is doing when you're feeling confident, when you're feeling joyous, when you're feeling whatever it is, and you're aware of it, only thing you're doing is anytime you're feeling a negative emotion, you just mirror what your body does when you're feeling joyous or confident or whatever the positive emotion is. And literally within 2 to 3 minutes, that feeling will actually flow within the body. So that's the first part of the emotional triad. We don't get emotions, we do emotions. So recognize what's actually going on with your physiology anytime you're feeling any type of emotional experience. Second thing is your mental focus. Where is your thought patterns lying? Is your thoughts on what's going right or what's going wrong? What's missing or what you have? What's right or what can be improved on in life? What's going wrong in life? Some failures or successes, or where does your mind dwell on? Does it dwell on the positive or does it dwell on the negative? Because where your mind is focused at to a large degree will determine what you're actually feeling. And
Right.
then the third thing is the language patterns. What words are you actually using to describe your particular emotional experience? If we had an altercation and RJ said that, yo, I only tapped Chris, it wasn't that big a deal. Like that language makes it seem like, oh, it wasn't that big of a deal at all. But if
Right.
I was to say, no, man, he punched me, that
That
creates
changes
a
things.
different emotional
Right.
experience. Even though I could be describing the exact same experience, the language that I use to actually describe it determines the emotional charge of the actual experience. So it's about learning the language that charges us up and then using language that's only going to charge us up in a positive way and never using language that's going to charge us up in a negative way.
And deplete us. Right.
So when things go wrong in life, I typically say that's unfortunate. And sometimes when people are saying something devastating to me, they're shocked when I respond like, "Oh man, that's unfortunate," because it's not an emotionally charged word. So
Right.
it's almost like like, and they be like, "That don't seem like that's a response that I should get for what I just told you." And I'm like, I mean, that's just what
Very
I say.
disingenuous, Chris.
That's just what I say when negative things happen. I'll be like, "Oh, that's unfortunate," but
But it's true though.
it doesn't charge my nervous system.
Right. Right.
As opposed to if I was like, oh my God, that's so messed up. I'm so sorry to hear that. I can't believe that you experiencing all
Now
that.
you're
It
gonna
starts to
wear
get the
all of that.
nervous system going.
Right.
Yeah. But you
You're
don't
gonna
got to
literally
do that.
wear
So
that.
being mindful of the emotional triad, being mindful of what your physiology is doing, being mindful of where your mental focus is at, and being mindful of the language patterns that you're using to describe your particular experiences. And that's why it's also beneficial to have a coach, because it can be difficult trying to track all these things. But you can just schedule some sessions with me and I will help make your awareness crystal clear when it comes to all of these things. But that is a strategy that you can actually use to cultivate resilience.
So, and now
Beyond,
I just wanted
are
I
you
wanted
good?
to jump in. I just wanted to jump in right quick and talk about being present, right? Because the muscle of being of resilience is built on staying present, right? And I think a lot of people don't understand what staying present is. So I have 7 things that you can realize and catch yourself and let you know that you're not living in the present moment. Number one, like Chris said, dwelling on negative emotions, right? When you're dwelling on the negative emotion and you're just sitting in it, that's number one sign that you're not living in the current moment. Because like I said earlier in the broadcast, when you have a negative emotion and you're dwelling on it, you're no longer living in the present moment. You're now in the past, right? Because that happened then. It didn't happen currently in this very moment. So anytime you catch yourself dwelling in a negative space, that's when you have to go back to those emotional triads. Change your physiology up, shake yourself a little bit, do something different, get on a treadmill, go run, go jog, do some push-ups, right? And then back to the language, check how you're talking to yourself, the internal dialogue. Check the words that it just not even come out your mouth, but in your mind. Check the language. Because like Chris said, it's the language that's triggering you in those negative responses in your physiology. So be careful of what you're saying. Number two, when you're worried about the future, right? There's no sense of that. That's how you know. Number two, you're no longer in the present when you're thinking so much about what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen next week, what's going to happen next month. You plan for those things. You don't worry for those things, right? There's a difference between planning and worrying. So when you plan, you don't worry. And when you worry, you don't plan. So make sure that you're planning for the future, not worrying for the future. Number three, can't forgive yourself for whatever happened to you. If you can't forgive yourself, holla at Chris. Seriously, holla at myself. Because forgiveness is the first step to building anything. Forgiveness is the first building block to moving towards success in any area of your life. You got to forgive yourself, the people, places, and circumstances that you feel took something from you and realizing happened for you and not to you. Number four, letting what ifs rule your mind. This is me. This is one of my struggles. Letting the what if take over your brain. When you're sitting around, oh my God, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? While you're doing that, life is happening past you. Every opportunity to change whatever you're fearful of is literally happening, going past you because you're not taking the opportunity to address those things and go after it. You're sitting down and you're worried about what could happen. But the truth of the matter is nothing's going to happen if you stay in that mindset. Number five, holding a grudge. Now, let me tell y'all something. Holding a grudge is simply drinking poison and hoping somebody else dies. That's it. You can't build resilience when you're holding a grudge. Period. Point blank. You can't do it. It's impossible. because you're holding on to resentment. When you hold on to resentment, you can't build resilience because you're harboring it. So you got to let that go. And last but not least, waiting for the perfect time. Whenever you're sitting around and you're waiting for the perfect time to do something, forgive someone, or start something, or begin to do something, you're no longer living in the present. And this is when anxiety is going to set in. Make sure that these 6 things: dwelling in your negative emotions, worrying about the future, not forgiving yourself, letting the what ifs rule your mind, holding grudges, and waiting for the perfect time. If you're doing any of those things, you are not operating in the present moment, and you're definitely going to be operating in anxiety and in fear very shortly. So please make sure you're not doing any of those 6 things. And if you find yourself doing any of those 6, bring yourself back to the present. Go outside, walk in nature, put your cell phones down. Start thinking about the goodness of God. Check on the breath of your body, y'all. Do y'all realize the most precious gift we have is our breath? Because once the breath leaves the body's no longer good. Tap into breathing. Go outside and into nature. Walk around in the grass. Just get back connected to the source, because trust me, when you tap back into the source and you get present like that, the future and the past don't matter.
Hey, no, that's facts. That's a major fact, man. I appreciate that. You got any parting words for the people before we get out of here, and let the people know how they can find you as well?
Oh man, yo, Chris, as always, thank you, my brother, for having me on this platform. This has been a dope experience. I've learned so much, and I pray that everyone that's tuned into us has also hit that like, subscribe, and you share button, because this platform is designed to help people and become better, heal, and do it confidently. So I hope everybody's do like, comment, and share. Share this broadcast out. Don't have selfish energy, because there's someone like you that just doesn't know that this exists. So be the vessel that's going to share this information to hopefully make a difference in their life. I'm RJD, the Imperfect Gentleman. If you are looking for me, you can find me on the Imperfect Gentleman 10k.com. That's the Imperfect Gentleman 10k.com. There you'll be able to find all my links, all my social medias. If you want to tap into anything I'm doing on a regular basis, you can see my podcast, the Imperfect Fathers podcast, on YouTube. And if you want to tap in directly with me, I'm always on the gram, rjd.imperfectgentleman on Instagram. So once again, Chris, thank you so much for having me, bro. I appreciate it. And keep doing the phenomenal work that you're doing out here in these streets, bro.
No, definitely. And everybody, y'all can definitely just reach out to me, send me a message or shoot me an email, send me a text message if you have my work line or my personal line. Set up some one-on-one coaching. If you are struggling with any type of unresolved childhood trauma, if you have any type of dysfunctional family dynamics and you're trying to harmonize those, if you're struggling kind of with like ego issues, pride issues, or aggression issues, or if you're just trying to empower the best version of yourself, definitely reach out. I would love to enroll you in our coaching program if you actually fit, man, and then let's just go to next level together. But beyond that, I will see y'all tomorrow at 10 a.m. live on LinkedIn. It's my duty to go live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on LinkedIn. I had some challenges this Tuesday because CJ the Great, my son,
Shout out.
demanded that I didn't do that today, or didn't do that on Tuesday. So, but my goal
Yeah.
is to do it every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So y'all will be seeing me tomorrow at 10 a.m. on LinkedIn. I hope you all be blessed.
Peace, family.